This is Ian Chambers. He's author of Plan for the Planet. It's a business plan for a sustainable world. So Ian, how serious is our current situation on the planet?
Well, we're already seeing significant climate change disruptions, which is alerting everybody to the fact that there's significant change on our planet. We're already seeing a range of problems with water shortages, resources, and we're already seeing prices going up of petrol, gas, of a lot of energy resources on the planet, which are signalling to us that we're on a finite planet. And what's going on is actually quite disruptive. Now, how serious is it? It's probably more serious than we realise. If we simply take climate change, and we're already seeing the impact that's happening now, those forecasts are based on premises about how the climate is going to change with temperature rise, etc. Now, some of those forecasts are in fact understated. Things like permafrost melt, which releases methane into the atmosphere, haven't been factored in because we didn't know how much that it would influence. So appropriately, people were conservative. But that means the impact of just climate change is going to be more significant than we imagine. The impact of our ever-increasing population using ever-decreasing resources is going to just exacerbate the gap between the two will get worse and worse. So unless we do something about it, we're heading for a precipice. So the situation is probably worse than we're actually imagining at the moment, but we can already see the impacts of these things happening now.
Well, can we do anything about it, or is it out of our control?
Well, what I was saying was the bad news. The good news is that we can, and it's a very positive story, and it's a story that we need to understand, because if we understand what we can do, we can start doing it. So the bad news is we're not doing what we need to do. The good news is there's a lot we can do. So I want to just explain a little bit about what it means to turn something around. If we take, say, Apple as a company in the late 90s, they were close to bankruptcy and basically they were at the brink. And that's pretty much where our planet is at the moment. And yet if you look at that company now, they're probably one of the most successful companies in the world. And you think, well, that happened quite dramatically. You think, well, was that luck, or what actually caused that? The thing that turned it around was good business management. That's something that we have developed over the last 50 years, the ability to manage on a global scale. We see that happening every day with large companies and small companies, all managing our global planet. Now, we can take all of those capabilities, and as we've used those to exploit our resources in the past, we can use those same management capabilities to in fact build a sustainable world. So there's a lot we can do, and it's very much the reason Plan for the Planet was written, to show that we can actually have a plan for how we can turn the planet around, that everybody can get involved in and actually make a difference. So in the same way that we make companies very successful, we can make our planet very successful.
Now, Ian, for anyone watching, what is it that they can specifically do? You see, many of us want to be part of the solution, not the problem.
Yeah, look, it's a good question, and a lot of people actually feel quite powerless at the moment. So there's really three situations that people feel they're in. One is that there's not a problem on the planet, everything's going along just fine. That's what we call the business as usual. We sort of sit there and say, look, I'm not going to worry about all of those things, I'm just going to hope that it all works out okay. Just keep doing what I'm doing. So that's one approach, and that's not going to be helpful because, if they'd done nothing in Apple, it would have gone bankrupt. And we're at risk at the moment on the planet of going bankrupt, which is not a good place for any of us. So we need to do something, and just saying we're going to keep going the way we're going with ever-increasing population using ever-increasing amounts of resources that are finite because we've only got one planet will not be a productive way of getting out of our situation. The second is that we're in this situation, but there's nothing we can do about it, and nothing I as an individual can do about it. But that's not true. There's in fact an enormous amount happening around the world at the moment. Transition towns, what's happening in local communities, something like 400 transition towns, which are making a difference in local communities, but they're also bringing what they're doing together into a global approach. So the key is that we all do what we can do in our patch. Whether we're a school kid or a CEO, we all have a sphere of influence and we all have a passion for something about our planet. And it's doing what we can do in our particular area, but doing that within the broader context. And to assist with that, there's organisations like Transition Towns, which are a very powerful way of linking what you're doing in with your local community and moving towards sustainability on the planet. We're also setting up a database at oneplanet2020.com, which is going to capture everything that's happening on the planet in terms of sustainability. So you'll be able to access that and find out what's happening in your area, or what's happening in Botswana or Australia. And you can also load up what you're doing so that other people can see, and we can all learn from our success and get encouraged from our success. So there's a tremendous amount we can do. We are heading for a precipice, but we're in a situation where we actually can turn that around quite quickly, within 1 decade. If we all started working towards building and achieving a sustainable world, then the change can be very dramatic. And people say, oh, look, how could we achieve that? And again, if you take the Apple example and look at the last decade and the transition with iPads and iPhones and the way we work, it's quite an exciting change, because together we can build a sustainable world.
Ian Chambers, Plan for the Planet, thank you